Welcome, 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 beloved hearts. We have another introduction to a mastery empowerment course with Jean Eng and the Arcturians. This is the Arcturian Principles of Light. Get ready to amplify your light as we embark on a new year and a new cycle. Hi, Jean. Welcome.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, everyone. Great to see everyone here. And it's great to open up this new season, being here in January. And of course, that also brings great energies for the new year. And a lot of people might also celebrate the Lunar New Year. So they'll also be starting somewhat at the same time we're doing this, in usually in early February. So this will be a great time to bring in new energies, bring in that kind of optimism and powerful light that the focus of this Mastery Empowerment course is on.
Beautiful. And of course, we are supported by the Arcturians and powerful angels of light as we raise our frequency. And I love these sessions because it seems they're so perfect for now, this shift and this change that everyone is going through, particularly at this juncture on the planet. And so we're going to go over each of these principles, but I find it interesting. Here, I'm going to read them. One, life was meant to be challenging. Two, every person we meet is a mirror for what is within us. And every result in life is exactly what we need. To me, this puts responsibility on us to fully deal with the situations, to look at everything that we're creating in our life, and to actually stop blaming the outside external world, but to take this in stride with where each of us are. So tell us about these transmissions and how you were inspired.
Yeah, and just to like circle back to what you said, I think now we've been doing this for a number of years, maybe over 8 years. But I think what's really dynamic about this on reflection is our meetings are sort of a chance to, as a group, collective whole of humanity or just ourselves, connecting to the divine through higher beings, almost like a group gathering council of incarnated beings and higher light beings. And really, it's dynamic, really what comes through. I think it's nice to have this framework, but I think what you're tuning into and what I've really also tuned into and noticed is really this co-creative process that occurs while we're having that meeting, and also people who are doing it through the recordings, either during that time or in the future, are really part of that dynamic, really interaction. So it's a little bit different than, let's say, if someone were to kind of do a rote meeting, which is maybe what we do in, like, I know in academics, it was sort of like that, and maybe had to be, you're trying to convey information, not so a type of living relationship at the moment, or maybe in business, for like a stock market report. But I think that's a big aspect, is this, unique in the present co-creative process. But yeah, like turning to this theme and what you mentioned, I think one of the things that I found, and maybe of course, the Arcturians who are working with here, and also what I call angels of light, or you mentioned, really kind of take what we know, kind of use that as a framework. But I've noticed that one's mindset, kind of in this game of life, and maybe if we see it as a game, really a fun game, maybe the most fun game you might have played on the playground kind of experience. We bring that joy to life and actually know some of the rules, or at least some of the loose rules that might be occurring that kind of help navigate that game. I think that can be very, very helpful. And like the theme of the this particular write-up or description is really to bring in more light, during even exponentially more light into our lives in this new year. So I think the principles that you mentioned are some of these loose rules that can help really have us navigate this game of life in a very positive, uplifting way.
Well, that is good. I love how you said that this is a fun game of life, probably the most fun that we've had. And just having that perspective really relieves us of a lot of burden because we tend to just make things so heavy. And when we look at challenges, it's like, oh, why me? I know so many light workers are struggling or challenged with, wow, why do I keep going like this? Why does it have to be so hard? I don't even want to be on the planet anymore. But you said a key word, mindset, and there's such a power in the mindset that our words, even that we say to ourselves, are actually bringing that into manifestation. So this mindset notion is really key. And that's why I love this first idea of life was meant to be challenging. So as we really behold that perspective, it's almost like we look forward to the challenge because then we can see it from that different perspective. Can you expand on this?
Yeah, yeah, and just as a kind of introduction to that, the ideas that of this idea of light with a capital L, or maybe just use a lowercase l. But I think, the more we get fluid in our perception, we realize that the world, even the very dense physical objects, we kind of play with this with the quantum spoon bending class, is really just waves of energy, waves of frequency, waves of light. And we can see that more, in things that are fluid, like how we might see water, change to ice, that it can then evaporate, or perfume, once we have the liquid, we know that it kind of, we can spray it on ourselves and then all of a sudden it, wears away. So there's things that are much more fluid, but even the most concrete things, are changing. And even our sense of time, as people, I think, get more onto the spiritual path and this kind of term we've used, raising your frequency, we realize, just us meeting 5 minutes ago, it's gone. It's in the past. It's like a rainbow, like, but if we can see it in a very positive light, like a rainbow, whatever the event is, it's always constantly changing. And if we live more in that high frequency vibration, we see the world, like you said, it reflects how we see ourselves or what we see within. We see that the world is really just patterns of light that are changing all the way down to the most so-called concrete things that we might see are really just vibrations. And it was interesting because certain saints or masters, or they're the ones documented who had that perception, could actually put their hands through like rocks and stones or leave their imprints on stones. Like Padmasambhava, I think, has handprints and stones in Tibet. So it's not just theoretical, even though that helps us live a great fun life. But it actually, just like bending the spoons, which people can do, or the forks, you can actually, change matter when you're in that perception. So we create our reality, literally. So that moves us to this first idea. Yeah, I think, you just have to, it's just a simple flip of the switch, flip of your perception. I love sports, and things about sports is it happens like instantaneously. You can see a team or a person go from a downward spiral, and if they can just get the momentum back, it could be a change of their the way they're perceiving like a lost point, or a fumble or something of that nature, and then they're totally re-energized. So we can do that in this game of life. Just one idea. Maybe it's this idea for someone listening, but I like this idea, the idea that life is meant to be challenging, in the way that's usually explained is like, if life, this hypothetical life in the write-up I wrote about that, if we had all the answers, if you were playing hide and go seek, and you were the one going to seek, and then you opened your eyes and everyone who is supposed to like hide is just sitting right in front of you, so you find everyone, or like or all the answers to this very hard exam like SAT or GRE or MCAT or whatever you're trying to achieve. If you just had all the answers, so you're going to get 100%. I mean, if life was all like that in this hypothetical situation, it could be called hell. After like maybe in 1 or 2 days, you'd be like going out of your mind. It would be so boring. And so I think there's this two dual perspective that's good to sort of maybe use as just as a heuristic or a framework, a shortcut they call it in cognitive science, heuristics, shortcuts, is one, we have our personality self. That's usually kind of the surface level, how we feel immediately. It could almost be called like a biological animal brain. Then there's and it could also be more complex, but then there's like a soul or a deeper aspect of ourself. And sometimes people are referred to making a lot of these decisions before we incarnated. So that would be at a soul level. So yes, at a personality level, we may not like the challenges. Like you said, we want out, it's just like so many changes occurring now on the planet and ups and downs emotionally. That's part of our limbic brain. And you can't really take that out of yourself. You hear so-called bad news and you're going to feel sad or feel angry right away. But at another level, on reflection, or maybe when we can look at in a past event that was difficult, we realize that that's exactly, maybe this is the third concept, exactly what we needed to accelerate. And so this idea that, we want the challenge, when I put that we, it's really at deepest level, the soul, your deepest level. It wants that challenge. It doesn't want all the answers. It wants to learn. It wants to accomplish. And the only way you can accomplish is the possibility of losing. Or it wouldn't feel like an accomplishment. So I think that if that kind of can hold on to people, or people can see that, it can completely change your life perspective immediately and change how you feel.
That's important. That is really, really powerful. And again, that puts the responsibility on us. And it's wonderful to know that we can shift out of it. We can shift frequencies. And it's by bringing in the light, by having that perspective. So beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So then, we're going to move on in this session and in this series. And I love this concept. And I know many light workers have heard it before. And especially when we get into human design, those reflectors, if we know of the 2% of the human design audience, there's 2% that are reflectors. And this is what we're talking about when we understand this notion that every person we meet is a mirror for what is within us. And that, when we fully comprehend that idea, it's more responsibility that we take. And I'm guided to reflect on certain situations. It's like, why did I bring that person into my life? I didn't mean to create this, but there's a deeper understanding that we can have by walking through that and diving deep within to understand it. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I love that. And just to mention people as we move out of that first session description, what we're trying to do also here is as a kind of way the sessions will unfold is, and people can do that who think, this is really a great program for me, is from now until when it starts, and it's great. We're kind of maybe starting this a little earlier, the pre-class video than usual. You could think of areas like, for example, the first one where life is challenging. Right now we may not see that, this is a great thing, whatever that situation might be, because it is so challenging. And to write one, I put there 3 to 5 things where that might really be something you're working on now, because we'll work with that, particularly in the transmissions, to kind of find solutions to that energetically, at all the different levels: physical, etheric, emotional, mental, causal, which is karmic, spiritual at the soul, akashic level, and also the divine, the non-dual level. And, make this really brass tacks and practical for things that we're working on. And then, it's usually on reflection that we see the accomplishment or the reason for things. But we want to work with things that we're really at the edge, so people can, in their life, so that people can start thinking about those, because we'll work directly with that during each of the sessions, and for the first one under that theme. But what you were mentioning in the second idea or mindset is that people or things being reflections of ourselves. I've also heard, like you said, I think it's a universal truth. You can see it in different spiritualities and maybe authentic healing principles or modalities. like you said, the human design idea of the reflectors or mirrors. I've heard it also in the Course in Miracles, where actually they kind of, I don't know if it's radical, but 100% everything that you see outside yourself is just within yourself. So it's hard. Like if you are someone who's raped, or whether that be physical, energetic, emotional, stolen from, maybe you had someone, if you're still here, you're alive physically, but you had someone who was murdered. I'm just taking the most extreme examples. I mean, I can't say that you'd use that in a healing session to say that to somebody, because right now you just need to heal from that. But these are things that we want to maybe take a look at, even in the most extreme examples. The hypothetical ones, maybe we need to just focus on things that actually have happened to us and see how that might apply. But we'll kind of work with maybe the easier ones, and just the idea that people, particularly what I called their troublemakers, the ones who are having hard, let's say the ones who annoy us, there's certain subconscious patterns in ourselves. And the reason to really emphasize that subconscious, that means we're just completely not aware of them. If you're kind of slightly aware of them, actually, it's not a subconscious pattern. It's a conscious pattern, because you're aware that, yes, I get angry when someone sounds like my mother when she was scolding me. That's completely conscious if you knew that. It's the ones where you're like, no, nothing's happened. This person just like pissed me off, and it's because of them. Then it's only someone else saying, well, I can, they probably might not say it to your face, but they're saying, well, I can see what's inside you, that bothered you from them. So it's really taking those, and that's why I say it's probably one of the quickest accelerative paths, is because it's so difficult, I would have to say personally, and just people just thinking about it, to really say like, oh, this is really something inside me, particularly the ones where you feel 100% justified that it's not you. So, but really that would be probably some deep subconscious pattern in you. And it may take time to see that. It may take lifetimes to see that. And this is kind of what the accelerative path is about, is maybe we can cut that time down by just hypothetically at first saying, well, if this is something inside me, what would it be? The way the Course in Miracles kind of points it out is it's probably something you've done. It may not be directly to that person or even to that soul of that person. It's something that you've done that you've buried so deep inside that it has to be reflected outside of you. It has to be outside of you. So maybe we take the rape or the murder condition. We don't, probably in this life you didn't do that. Maybe you did. No one knows who's listening. But let's say in another life, there's so many lifetimes that, if you believe in lifetimes, where we could have done that, and it doesn't have to be physical, could be energetic, emotional, mental, and is buried deep within us from another lifetime, and now we feel that guilt, but it's subconscious, and so it's projected outward. This is kind of the Course in Miracles mechanism. So this person is kind of reminding us, and really the Course is about forgiveness, just realizing, hey, that was okay. In some ways we were in that learning process, and we can forgive ourselves. Then that person doesn't become a trigger anymore for whatever that might be. And yeah, it might take time, and usually it takes divine help. Like in the Course, they call it the Holy Spirit, or it might be Jesus. In the Course also uses that. It might be, the Buddha for us. It might be Mother Mary. It might just take someone, some being who's a little more advanced, who can kind of say, hey, look, this was okay. You're learning. This is something inside you. You may think they're raping you, whether that's energetic, emotional, mental, causal, spiritual, divine. But you wouldn't feel that way unless maybe there's something inside you where you might have done that, not necessarily to them. It could be to them, their soul at another lifetime, but somewhere. And if you have complete forgiveness on yourself on that, then it won't be a trigger outside you. So it's completely a long learning process, a deep learning process, but I think one of the most direct learning processes. And just to end this, sometimes the Course will say, if you can forgive someone, and this might be figurative, symbolic, it might be literal, you can save 1,000 years or more of development, evolutionary development, with that one instant of forgiveness. And on reflection, maybe we can see how that works.
Wow, that is so powerful. I really love that. And it brings to mind a couple of things. One is the Ho'oponopono forgiveness prayer, right?
Mhm.
That's what we're doing. We are taking that within our own energetics and forgiving ourselves and asking for forgiveness, even though we may not be in the wrong in a mishap that happens. And I know that many times when we go to say the Ho'oponopono, our ego mind will say, wait a minute, I'm the one that was betrayed. Why do I have to say I'm sorry? But this is where it's taking that responsibility of forgiveness based on exactly what you're talking about. So deep down, where within us did we betray another person? This is really amazing because if we hate something that we see another person doing, for example, that's because we hate that within ourselves. So this is really profound. And I want to say one more thing is that spiritual teachers have said, and we've just gone through the holidays where maybe for the most part, families were together celebrating, and that could cause some friction. But spiritual teachers have said, if you really want to work on yourself, go love your family. So that's really amazing. And so what I love about this is that as we, in the first session, we can go and look at challenges that are coming up in our lives, but we can look at things in our relationships that are coming up. And I'm certain that it's a very timely matter because, wow, I mean, I've just experienced something too. And applying this concept to that, it makes me think differently and think deeply. And it's been healed thanks to the Ho'oponopono as well. But this is really important so that we can move on, and usually it's our genes. Like I've noticed that with family members, it's ancestral bloodlines. It's like, it's not me, it's not her or him, it's the family genes that bring it up. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's fascinating. Actually, synchronistically, I was saying this prayer yesterday from Morna, who would really help put Ho'oponopono on the map. Mona Simeona, if people know her. And of course, maybe people have heard of Joe Vitale. He really wrote two books that helped to popularize Ho'oponopono and talked about Hugh Len. But when I went back to Morna's work, she has this prayer here. Maybe I can read it, and it talks about the ancestors. And I didn't realize the extent of what she was trying to refer to is that deep in our subconscious, millions, billions of years, our ancestors might have really harmed your ancestors, and now you're kind of like the kind of the tip of the iceberg and getting that, this maybe it's a business problem with this person, but you're meeting from billions of years in the past, and so if I just read this, it's not too long, but she says here, it's one of her most, I guess, powerful forgiveness prayers. It says, Divine Creator, Father, Mother, Son is one. If I, my family, relatives, and ancestors, exactly what you're saying, Lauren, have offended you, your family, relatives, and ancestors in thoughts, words, deeds, and actions, from the beginning of our creation to the present, we ask your forgiveness. Let this cleanse, purify, release, cut all negative memories, blocks, energies, and vibrations, and transmute these unwanted energies to pure light. And it is done. So she really was, trying to, embody in that prayer like exactly what you're saying. This isn't, it may be like we're just meeting one-on-one with this person, but it's really an expansive network that we're forgiving or letting go or healing.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for sharing Morna Simeona's name because I never was really clear on where that came. So she was the original who brought forth the Ho'oponopono. I know Dr. Hugh Lin out of Hawaii as well, but Morna was born a native Hawaiian and recognized as a kahuna. So
Mm.
thank you for that. That's going to take all of us into a new search into our lineages of aloha. And actually, that takes us back to Lemuria and what we know from there. So I get emotional because I can feel it and it rings true. So this is really powerful work. Okay. And so then as we prepare for these sessions, we can take a look in our lives at relationships. And oh boy, challenges, that's one thing. Relationships, that's another. And we can bring that to the table here for healing and light.
Yeah, exactly. If people want to think of 3 to 5, of course, you may have a smaller list, a bigger list. You could just, whatever, but you'd like in terms of the list. But I would just to make it manageable, 3 to 5 relationships where you feel maybe that are problematic or are that are you're having issues with. It could even be small annoyances, like in the Course in Miracles, a small annoyance is as much as a big rage because it's still the underlying basis of it is still the same. And if you want, you could say, like, what is this reflecting inside me? Where am I kind of the perpetrator of what I'm seeing someone else being the perpetrator of me? If you want to do that step. But we'll do that in the class. We'll do that energetically, really, is what's helpful. Because we were asking again for this higher assistance, the guidance. The Course does say it doesn't have to be Jesus, doesn't have to be the Holy Spirit, but it does say we all need a teacher, like an inner, whether it's an inner world or outer world, but really an inner world teacher who can help us during these times where we're at our edge. Like we can't see it. Like we can't see that this person has really done something really bad to me, how I could have been some cause of that, or I could have done that to someone. Of course, we're talking expansive, many lifetimes where we don't remember those times. But and also maybe we identify that teacher. Maybe it's Archangel Michael. Maybe it's your grandmother who passed, or maybe she's still alive. It could be Mother Mary, like I mentioned. So, and then we'll be asking for their assistance energetically, spiritually, and of course the Arcturians will be there helping too.
I love it. We can sense the incredible healing on an energetic level. And again, it all comes back to our own responsibility and our own journey. So I can see how this highly accelerates our life path and our self-growth. It's really beautiful. And so then we come to the next phase, which is every result in life is exactly what we need. That's another big one that the ego mind will say, what? Because I've got something here that I'm looking at and I'm like, damn, fudge. How did that? How is that exactly what I need? But then we're able to look at it. And now in hindsight, which is 2020, I can actually begin to sense how this made me more compassionate or patient or considerate, these sorts of things. And so it is another beautiful example. So when we apply this to our life, there I can see and sense the pure growth. Can you expand more on this concept?
Yeah, I was introduced to this or maybe reawakened to this recently by studying some of the principles of Kabbalah, which is the mystical path of Judaism. And it's sort of like a deeper complement to the first principle that we were talking about, that we want life to be challenging, meaning we don't want the answers. So the complementary, somewhat maybe even paradoxical idea here is we do want certainty in our life. We want to have an attitude of certainty, but it's not certainty in the form of the result. Like back to sports. Let's say you play on a football team. You don't want the certainty that every time you play you're going to win. That would be the certainty in the form, because you do want the possibility that you might lose, because that trains you. You want to train, you'll want to train, you'll want to get better. And you can take this kind of idea, the football game, to any aspect of your life. But the certainty is in the fact that exactly what the third phrase is, or mindset, that whatever the result will be, if I put 100% in, if I'm like all in with my joy, my light, then whatever the result will be is exactly what I need. And usually, if you want to say from the soul level, or just say what I need. And if you can always live life with that certainty, like the certainty that the divine is always bringing you exactly what you need, maybe not in the form that you want, but in the form that you need, then you can kind of live with a certain kind of presence. That there's certain, maybe a person, like we've experienced that in ourselves at certain times. Maybe we live like this most of the time or all the time, or maybe someone like this who just has that deep sense of trust in, you could say, the universe, in the divine. They have that calmness, that assuredness. It's not a cockiness. It's a sense that, yes, the divine is always providing exactly what's needed at the moment. I may not know the form, I may not personality from a level like the form of how it turns out, but I know that it's always going to be exactly what's needed. And it may take time. We don't have to accept that. I think the best thing is to first check our experience. Second is to see if it's actually true. It may not be true. I just put it out there. But I think, in my sense, that mindset can really bring a lot to the table, can bring that light through, because it's the self-doubt. It's just not only self-doubt, it's the doubt in the universe that closes down the light. If you just think about that in yourself or in someone else, like if I'm doubting you, there's something that I'd be holding back. Therefore, I kind of, if the light's like right around, let's say it comes down my pillar, which it actually does, energetically, then I kind of close it a little because I'm kind of like doing this energetically with a person who I kind of somewhat trust, somewhat don't trust. And so, same thing with any event in the world, or just our sense of the universe. So, if you're completely in that certainty that things are turning out exactly the way they should, you sort of like you just bring it all on. You're completely relaxed and you bring everything to the table. So that's the idea with this third uh, mindset, or a mindset of light.
Yes, again, I just love it. And I'm thinking again about sports, and I'm just thinking, for example, like tennis. If we go out and play tennis, we can beat ourselves up because we didn't win that match or that game, or we played pretty badly that day. But this notion allows us the growth, the chance to get better. So we can take everything in stride. So that's one thing. And now when we apply it to challenges, we get the same expansion, the same growth, the same opportunity to release something that no longer serves us. And if we didn't have that as a backdrop or as a challenge, we would never grow. We would just be stagnant. So I love this trusting the universe and the divine knows all. Because I do know some people, they're like, here's this problem, but it's perfect. That right there is what we're talking about. Here's a problem, but it's perfect because I got this. And so, again, that is a great way to advance spiritually on our life path. Wonderful. Okay. And so, again, we ask our audience to bring even those areas and challenges in our life that need this reflection. All right, so get ready. Anything else you'd like to add about this whole program? And then we'll do a mini transmission.
Yeah, yeah, we can do it maybe on this third one. But, I was reminded also about this principle. I mentioned I was kind of reminded, or just was brought to my attention through studying some of the Kabbalistic principles, which I think are just beautiful. It's a really an area of spirituality that wasn't as much aligned, that I'd been able to tap into. Most people who've done classes together with Lauren and I know that I kind of have a strong Tibetan Buddhist, Taoist, and of course was raised in the Catholic Christian tradition. So it drew a lot from that, maybe karmically. But it was really recently working with what's called the 72 divine names, that I think opened up this connection to the Kabbalistic mystical lineage, which a lot of these principles of light come from. But drawing just from another tradition, and I've mentioned him before, Dr. Ibrahim Karim, who started biogeometry. He's drawing more from maybe a Coptic Christian, Islamic, ancient Egyptian wisdom. Of course, he's probably universal, but very high initiate. If people have met Dr. Karim, he was talking about the jigsaw puzzle of life. And like basically, it's the same idea. Like we might, every event, every experience, major, minor, big or small, is like a jigsaw piece in our jigsaw puzzle of life, our picture of life. And if there's one area you reject, like, I don't know, that trauma when you're 16, trauma when you're yesterday, and you're like, that shouldn't have happened. That piece you've rejected, you've kept out of the puzzle. And so, like, at the end of your life, like, it has a hole in it. It needs that one piece to kind of complete the whole, or maybe it's a couple of pieces to be fully accepted, to realize, it made you who you are now. It's sort of the beauty of who you are, the wisdom. And of course, maybe it doesn't need repeating, but it's probably those more difficult situations with distance when you look back that actually propelled you the furthest. Definitely in sports. It's not when you're winning, unless you take the time to look at how you won. A lot of times you're just celebrating. But it's kind of those hard defeats. If you can go back and look exactly why you didn't, what went wrong and so forth. And the military does this a lot. Is they're forced to do it after every operation. They have a long debrief because they know that it's actually looking at those problems that move you forward the most. Most of the time, when we're elated after victory, or getting what we want, we tend not to do that. We're just so, we're kind of like, we feel like everything's all right and we move on. So we tend not to actually get accelerated as much. And so we kind of mentioned that because that was always the case. We wouldn't, and eventually we'd be bored. But so these are all interrelated, very interconnected ideas, these three principles and kind of the corollaries to them. But I thought if people just maybe while I'm introducing this, if there is one area in your life, maybe it is something that's been difficult to accept as helpful, or maybe it's just been problematic. Maybe it can be currently going on. So we don't really see the full perspective, even though intellectually we can say, yes, everything in my life is important, but maybe this one I don't emotionally or can't embody that quite yet. We're going to run this help from the divine with the help of the Arcturians to sort of accept this jigsaw puzzle piece in our life. And if you don't have one, or everything's fine, we'll still let it run. It can still help us. Maybe it's now, maybe it's in the future. Maybe it's just to integrate those experiences at a deeper level. So maybe we see a light, a new, deeper meaning to an experience we've already accepted, but maybe still there's some more integration that can occur from it. Okay, so it's about be about 3 to 5 minutes. And if you're like driving or something, or you're not able to fully relax, that's okay. The energy will still be received. You can still do your activity. And if you want to listen to this portion later, where you can completely focus on this, uh, then you can always do that through the recording. Okay, so we're starting this third transmission in the Arcturian Principles of Light, helping us to see that every result was exactly what we needed, big or small in life. So if you wanted to call to mind that one thing that either you wanted to learn more from, integrate more from, you already feel you've accepted it, you can think of that. Or maybe it's something you haven't been able to digest, accept. Maybe it's too big at the moment, too difficult. It's actually probably even somewhat better or more grist for the mill, so to speak. More chance to accelerate, develop, kind of see what's behind that. Probably take us to a deeper, higher understanding. Only because if we did understand it, then we'd already be there. And also just to be open, receptive, you might call it humility, humbleness, or just receptivity to that one guide I mentioned. Could be more than one, but someone we really think of as our loving teacher, someone we trust, who we can kind of say, hey, how does this work? Maybe it's Jesus or Mother Mary or Buddha, Lao Tzu, Iman, Muhammad. Maybe it's someone doesn't have a formal name, star being, trusted guide. Just ask them what they think. Again, if we knew all the answers, if we were perfect right out of the bat, what fun would life be? So we have to meet these different challenges, things we can't accept yet. Maybe that is the reason we incarnated. Okay, energies are closing. If you wanted to say thanks to anyone you called in, that's great. Perhaps it's more for ourselves and knowing that they're always there helping us out. You feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
I always just love those mini transmissions because in just those first few moments, when we relax enough and close our eyes and really feel into it, the information comes, the perspective comes. And so there were a couple of issues that I brought into this, and it was amazing how it immediately helped all those issues. And it's just a beautiful reminder because for me, I got, this is you standing on your own 2 feet, not leaning into others or letting others do things for you, but you standing on your own 2 feet and not acting out of fear. Like I could see a situation that was created because I was acting out of fear. So that was huge for me. And I also got that nobody can do this for us. And I know that's pretty out there or, hard to articulate for other people to understand what I mean by that. But I get that. And I know that others who go through this can feel their perspective. And that, no matter what people got, is really empowering. We're the ones. So that right there is a huge growth in our understanding and our perspective of why things happen, why the results come. And so it's beautiful. So that in itself is like a ho'oponopono, when we can understand that, yeah, things do happen for our highest good. And so it may not look good from a mind perspective or an ego perspective, but it's so beautiful, so precious. And all is in divine order, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. And just to emphasize also the positive, like things very, very positive that everyone knows are positive will also come into your life, maybe the majority of your life. It's a very happy dream when we can bring in the light, more and more things just are like that happy dream, like the rainbow, literally with all its full beautiful colors and kind of have that sense like it's shimmering, it's changing, but we do enjoy all those beautiful colors of light and happy things happening to us and sort of also the whole spectrum, although maybe we focus more on the healing portion, but also just to bring in this exuberant portion that also comes into our life too, to celebrate that.
Beautiful. So we are very excited to invite everyone to join us. As we know from these beautiful transmissions, it is a container of love and light. And as soon as one makes that decision to join us in this event, then the energies already start. And we've witnessed this in the dream space that comes about and awarenesses that come about, like issues, challenges, relationships. Things like this are already in our forefront and we already begin working on it. And the Arcturians are here to help us with that. I love it. And we have a bonus, a free gift with the purchase of this course. It is Manifesting the Divine Plan. And this was another beautiful program that supports this program as well. Is there anything you want to add on Manifesting the Divine Plan?
Yeah, I think that was done last year. It's great to see the cyclical. We were talking about seasons and opening up this season. that would be a great program if you get a chance. You don't have to do it before this one. It comes for free or as a, the bonus or really complement to this. And that's really working with, with the energies of how do we bring, this, we're kind of going over some of the principles that bring in the light. That one would be like, how do you bring that light into the plan, that you're meant to do on the planet? And so that could be really very helpful. So it could be done at any point, either before, or during, or after this program. I did want to share this. I mentioned connecting to the Kabbalah because I think there's sort of inner world guardians that kind of help us, allow us to connect to certain spiritual lineages, spiritual kind of fountains of light in the inner world. So people were interested in that. The divine, I mentioned these 72 divine names of God, and I used particularly Yehuda Berg's book. He has a meditation book on that, a deck on that. And, these are divine names that you can chant. I think what they really do is they open up light into your system. They also connect you to higher beings. I think they're somewhat the guardians or the higher beings that are involved in the Kabbalah. I mean, that's kind of known. So it's not kind of an intuition on my part. And if you do get that, if you don't speak Hebrew or read or write, supposedly if you read the Hebrew letters, you just look at them almost like a scanning code, like a barcode. They actually you get a download from that. So you don't have to even understand Hebrew. So those divine names are usually 3 Hebrew letters. So, and we've talked about J.J. Hurtak's book, the Kizabinak, and he mentions how like Hebrew is a symbolic language that transmits codes. And so that was kind of deep into my study with the Yehuda Berg 72 divine names. And just to mention, he does mention a set of angels. It's not in the 72 divine names. I just want to leave it with people because I think it'll bring a lot of joy and light to call on these angels. You just call the name Chi Du. I don't know if people get the chat, but it's basically, I'll put in the chat, but I'll just also spell it. It's Chidu. That's basically how it sounds. It's actually also 3 Hebrew letters, but Chi Du. I usually just say it 7 times. And you start feeling really happy because those angels start coming in, and that fits a lot. We'll talk more about that, and I'll give more reference to it in the class. But Yehuda Berg had introduced me to that too. So people might use that just to connect to the angelic beings who really bring a lot of light and joy daily.
She do, she do, she do. Okay, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing on that. Because I guess those Hebrew letters are otherwise known as fire letters. And
Right?
fire is amplified light, purifying light. So this is a beautiful opportunity. We're looking forward for everyone to join us as we learn we're learning to imprint the mindset and patterns to bring more light into our life and our situations. And that's so beautiful. Jean, thank you, thank you, thank you for this. We are looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy day.
Say bye. You can register on the link here, and we look forward to seeing you. Blessings. Bye, everyone. This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.